Good day, dear viewers. The month of August has continued with my journey deeper down the smutty rabbit hole. Ew. And though the heat didn't help, I did find time to put some smut down and pick up some other safe for work titles. So without further ado, join me for our August wrap-up. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Neverland Book Club. After reading about 7 more smutty titles in a row, I needed to take a cold shower and return to reality. I needed to return to a world where the anatomy of a man remained unchanged and where the men were human. Somewhat. Something recognizable, something familiar to that of a biology textbook from this world. So naturally I turned to fantasy because I wasn't completely ready to come back all the way, you know? First, I dove back into the meticulous mind of R.F. Kuang with the 3rd and final book in the Poppy War trilogy, The Burning God. And oh, wow. Was that a wild ride? Not only for the fate of Nikan, but for our 3 main characters and supporting characters as well. Rin's sacrifices are finally seeing fruition and her battle against the Dragon Republic finally comes to an epic end. Her inner battle with the Phoenix is woven into the story so neatly. The character development is strong and the entire experience is truly dreadful in the best way. Rin is so powerful, yet so powerless in the situations she finds herself in. Kuang's storytelling is hyper-realistic when dealing with war and the people affected by living through war times. She does not pull her punches when discussing scenes and scenarios of the casualties of war. This trilogy gave me neck pain with the amount of tension and anticipation of every coming chapter. The magic system was appropriate for the circumstances of the presented world. The magic system was appropriate for the circumstances of the presented world without taking away from the realism. It's not fancy, it's not beautiful, it's not even satisfying in the same way other fantasies are satisfying. This is not a world I will ever want to find myself in, which is also a horror in and of itself because given the setting, it's more realistic in our world than other fantasy novels, since it's more so taken from the real world. The historical fiction is a bit non-fictitious in that the Asian experience of World War II is somewhat overlooked in the standard American history syllabi. I know I personally never learned about that point of view in school. It was always the classic narrative and how the US influenced the outcomes of the war. It's through books like this that opens our eyes to the history and experiences of other cultures and people through time, which now, as adults, with the internet at our fingertips, ignorance is no longer an excuse. But I digress. Back to the story. The ending was something I didn't see coming, I hated, and exactly what the story needed, all wrapped up together. I was not happy with the ending. It was not a happy ending. But is it exactly how the book should have ended? Yes. Kuang is not afraid to kill her darlings, and I think in instances like this, when a writer spends years getting to know her character and perhaps subconsciously writing themselves into their characters, to not give them a happy ending could be a sign of writer's masochism. So, do I recommend this trilogy? Yes, absolutely. It has fantasy, it has magic systems, it has war, strategies, intense and amazing characters going through inner and outer turmoil and strife. It does not hold your hand or give you what you want as a reader. It gives you what the story is. Bless you. It sounded like you glitched. It gives you what the story is. It's blunt and honest and brutal and just good. 4.5 stars for the whole series. Also, R.F. Kuang has a new novel out now, Babel. I have not read it yet, but it is on my list for the next time I binge buy my books, which by the time this goes out, I already bought them. Next, we have a little rom-com. I wanted that switch from high fantasy and intensity to something inconsequential, and boy was I disappointed in Dating Dr. Dill by Nisha Sharma. I don't have much to say about this one other than I found nothing interesting about this book. I'm sorry. I know it's popular, but I don't know why. I believe some books are popular for a reason. Even certain smut books that are C- in plot, but are still popular because they have somewhat good smut. See, that's a reason. But this one, I can't figure out what the reason is. We have a boring female MC and a boring male MC, both with their problems and reasons for fake dating. They meet, things go awry, they meet again, the whole enemies to lovers thing is tried, and you know, they eventually get together, and there's like a few like spicy scenes. It's always the same thing, but there was no tension. I didn't like the characters. Their motivation was alright, but not amazing, and the spicy scenes didn't do it for me. 2 stars. If you want a rom-com, there are much better ones out there. You can skip this one, you're not missing much. Next, Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Toshikazu Kawaguchi. I have seen this one everywhere. I've heard good things, it was super short, I finished it in a day, and it annoyed me the entire way through. It bothers me when a good concept is shrouded with so much technicality that the point of the story is lost within the rule books, that the flippant nature of the characters overtakes the plot in such a way that the entire point just falls to the floor. And I think that's what happened with this book. The concept is intriguing, but the presented rules and characters are overall too annoying to enjoy the concept itself. The coffee shop that is famous for its ability to take you back in time, but is now only believed to be just a myth because no one takes advantage of such a feature anymore due to all the rules. So it's a self-aware bad story. See, you have to sit in this one seat, but that one seat is taken by a ghost, and you have to wait for that ghost to go to the bathroom, and you have to have been in the coffee shop before, and you have to drink the entire cup of coffee, but you can't let it get cold, but you also can't sit back in your chair, and you also have to wear your hair in a side ponytail, not in a bun, not down. You can't have 3 clips in your hair, only 1 or 2, and you have to remove your left shoe before you sit down, and oh my god, so many damn rules. There's too many rules! No, the motivation for the characters were also a bit shallow, in my opinion, and I couldn't seem to get myself to care about their problems. You don't have to read this one. Unless you really want to, but you don't. 2 stars.
What if you have short hair?
Then you can't do it. Too bad. All those other ones I made up, but the first few were actually real. Next, The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. Now here's an interesting story. Here's a band of characters I cared about. Here's a narrative with a solid concept executed in a solid manner. I listened to this book, and if you have the opportunity, I recommend listening to the audiobook. The narrator is perfect for the job. He embodied every character in his presentation and completely understood the assignment. This almost felt like if X-Men was on Sesame Street. It was whimsical and fantastical, yet still had elements of structure and balance which were needed from time to time. It was charming and engaging and so much fun to read. The story is told through the perspective of our main character, Linus Baker, a caseworker for the Department of Magical Youth. He finds himself on an assignment to determine if a certain group of individuals, youths from a specific orphanage, will bring about the end of the world. The 6 children and their caretaker are such a well thought out group of individuals on their own. You find yourself caring for all of them, even though one of them is supposed to be the Antichrist, very cheekily named Lucy. Lucifer. I thought it was clever. I recommend this book if you want a feel-good read full of whimsy and overall warmth in your heart. 3.7 stars.
It's just the right amount of sadism.
Yeah. Next, we have another contemporary romance I didn't entirely hate. Good Girl Concept by L. Kennedy.
Complex.
What did I say?
Concept.
Good Girl Concept by... I did it again! Complex. Good Girl Complex by L. Kennedy. At first glance, you don't think much of this story. I haven't really heard of the author, but the title is catchy. The book is told through a dual narrative common in contemporary romance today, and it's a heterosexual male-to-female inevitable relationship type blueprint. However, this one has a bit of social commentary having to do with modern class systems, if you will. I appreciated its take on the view of success for a young woman and taking charge of one's love life and career even at such a young age. The book also had a beachy feel, which I appreciated as a summer read. And the characters do develop over the course of the novel. They are different people at the end than how they started out, which is always nice to see. However, the story wasn't innovative. It didn't really present new ideas or open my eyes to anything groundbreaking. And for that, I give it 3 stars. Not amazing, not terrible, just in the middle. It was alright. Okay. Next, I needed to head back into Fantasyland, and I thought, wait a minute, I never continued my City of Brass journey. And so I read the second book in the series, The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty. I was a bit shocked at first to have a 5-year jump from the ending of City of Brass. I didn't expect that, and I kind of didn't like it at first. But then once we're reintroduced to familiar characters and getting to know what they did over that period of time, you quickly forgive the author for the blip. It had a good flow in the beginning and a solid ending that left me wanting more. However, the middle was a bit slow. It needed some structural integrity between jumping from character to character and actually getting to the bottom of who is good and who is evil in this whole story. We discover more of Nari's backstory, her mother, her brother, the stakes are higher between our main characters, and we can feel the kingdom beginning to crumble. It was nice to see Nari find her purpose and step into her badassery, but overall, I'd say I actually liked the first book more. Will I be reading the third book in the Blvd trilogy? Yes. Eventually. Did I already order it because I couldn't wait to get my hands on it? No. The cultural representation is again there, but not enough. I wanted more. 3.5 stars. Alright. And last on the list of non-smut I read in August, high fantasy with that accurate cultural representation I longed for in the previously mentioned title, we have... It's the only one I have a physical copy of. The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This is an Aladdin retelling, but not an obvious one at first. There are a few little things here and there where I was like, I see what you're doing. But it's not obvious like so many other retellings out there. Calling someone a street rat under their breath or asking, "Do you trust me?" in the midst of chaos. I loved it. I loved this book. This book was fun, adventurous, intense, scary at times, and filled with rich history and lore and culture and characters and... I had so much fun. And the ending, I was reading so fast I didn't realize I had gotten to the end until I turned the page and there was nothing left but a cliffhanger. That stupid, awesome cliffhanger made me frantic since I didn't know going into my read that this was book 1 of the Cerulean Sea trilogy, so now I have to wait. I hate waiting. This high fantasy novel world builds in such a fluid way, the magic system is effortlessly presented, and the characters are easy to identify with. There are twists you may or may not see coming. I saw a few, and I did not see others, and the fairy tale elements of storytelling is just so fun. I recommend this to anyone who loves fantasy. 4.5 stars. There was also Arabic phrases written out phonetically, which I thought was great for English readers to experience and still get somewhat of a feel for the language. I appreciated the representation. Just go read. Alright, that's all I have for you today, my dear viewers. Be sure to like this video if you liked it and subscribe for more. August is finally over and you know what that means. The spooky season is around the corner and I cannot wait to cover this room with spider webs and decorations to celebrate my favorite time of year. Spooky time. Today's shout out goes to Carly King. I was feeling this pretty hard when I first started. That sounded weird. But after getting out of that hole, I found I could appreciate regular books for their lack of smut just as much as I appreciate smut for its smut. I swear, these books have really altered the shape of my brain. It now just looks like a giant eggplant. Alright, I'm off to go mood read my way through September. I actually really liked mood reading this past month. I went through some disappointments, some home runs, but I think I had more fun nonetheless. I recommend a more chaotic mood reading regimen. Try out new things, see what you like. There are also a number of upcoming release dates I'm looking forward to, and I have already pre-ordered. Fairy tale. Stephen King. That was a terrible cough take, but I'll keep it. Oh no, you can see my legs. Stay lost. Keep reading. Goodbye.